All right, how's it going, beautiful, beautiful souls, awesome folks of YouTube? This is Jose Trujillo. I'm an artist, and I just wanted to present myself right away. Got my Starbucks coffee happening. Bam, there we go. It's like Groundhog Day with the Starbucks, huh? All right, today I'm gonna do something slightly different. I'm gonna do a still life, but check it out. Check out what my niece brought. This is what my niece brought to us. I've been meaning to paint it for a couple of days now, and well, I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna put it here on my table, okay? And bam! We're gonna do something super awesome 2000. Awesome 2000. All right, you guys. Let me show you again. Okay, based on this, is that this painting is going to be. So, be cool, stay in school if you need to. Here we go. Grab onto something because this will be a ride. Awesome ride. So one of the reasons why I love doing these videos, it's not just to show you guys a little bit behind the scenes of what I do, how I'm developing as an artist, you know, all that kind of cool stuff. But it's also it helps me. It keeps me on my toes, because it allows me to think differently, you know, to go a little bit beyond what I usually do. I'm always kind of growing and stretching. Look, I'm going to be using one of these little charcoals, okay? So it keeps me, you know, I don't know, I feel like it does something for me. Can't put my, I don't know what it does, but it does something. Let's start by establishing who's the boss. Okay? I know some artists like to first do the background. That's a form of, it's an anchoring. I call it an anchoring. It's an establishing. Some artists that I know that are very, very good artists, they tend to do a background first, like the gesso with different textures and colors. It's what works for you. I call it anchoring. Next time you hear someone be like, oh yes, Jose says it's called anchoring. It sounds so cool. Okay? But some people call it different stuff, you know. Some people call it just being awesome. I don't know. I call it anchoring because this is how I establish being the boss on a painting. I purposely do things that would frighten me. That's one of the ways. I also like to do the background stuff, but not as much as other artists. Some other artists really enjoy that, and that's cool. It's part of their process, you know. Part of my process is this. Write down in the comments below, you guys, what is your process? What is the thing that you guys do? How do you anchor? And what I mean anchoring means how do you establish that you are asserting yourself. It's not about taking over the canvas per se. You know, it's not about controlling or you know, whatever. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's about a way that you assert. So you're telling the canvas, look, you either work with me or I'm gonna kick your ass. One or the other. Because it's a way to allow bad things to happen and you are okay with it. It's okay. And some of you are like, I get it. Well, some people don't get it, so just kind of explain it. So that's really what it comes down to. Okay. It's you're telling the canvas, look, I'm gonna tell you who's the boss. If you are not 100% with me, I will kick your booty. But yeah, I mean, all seriousness and whatnot, that's really what it is. It's I call it anchoring, okay? So figure out what your thing is. I don't know, maybe your thing is that you scribble everywhere. You know, maybe your thing is that you prepare the background. Maybe your thing is that, I don't know, you do something. Maybe you do a very detailed drawing first. Maybe you just figure out what your thing is. I don't know. Figure out je ne sais quoi. You're gonna find out. The only way you're gonna find out is if you start doing it. It's not gonna happen just because you wish. Okay. My God, I'm one hell of an artist. I'm always surprising myself. I am. I promise you, I'm always surprising myself. I'm like, I'm too good to be true. I'm too good to be true. Look, you guys have to love what you're doing. You guys have to really get into a place where you start not just enjoying it, you are recognizing your potential. When you start pushing a little bit more than what you usually push, you start recognizing your potential. That's very powerful. It's a very powerful thing to do. Most people don't know how to do that because not because they can, but because they don't allow that to happen. Okay? You have to allow it to happen. You have to what I mean by allowing to happen is that when you feel like it's like people that exercise, you know, these people that spend all this time exercising, these people understand that. And I always compare this to being an athlete. It's when you feel like you can't push anymore. It's where you grow, where you actually start pushing, where you feel like you can't anymore. That you're like, oh man, I'm done. I could not possibly do this anymore. That's a sign right there that's where you need to push again. That's where the growth happens. Whatever that is for you, whether it's fear, whether it's your comfort levels. What are your comfort levels? What are you doing that maintain you in this type of comfort levels? You know. So yeah. And it's that simple. You know? It's that simple. It's really recognizing where you stand with your comfort levels. Now, one of the things about painting is that you don't necessarily paint the way it is. That's why some paintings appear more. You're like, but I painted it the same way. This is something that let me see, that I learned when I used to do remodeling with my brother. My brother had he still does a remodeling business, home interior remodeling. And it's something that I learned that I applied in artwork. Later on, I would find out that if you take some serious art lessons, I mean serious by someone who's not necessarily established, because there's many artists who are established, but doesn't mean that they are. And I'll get into that some other time. But doesn't mean that It just means that people know them, but doesn't mean that they are very, very good artists. Okay, it's another thing. That they're working artists. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that they are good marketers, or some stuff like that. But some artists are good marketers, and they are good workers. They work daily at their craft. They create their work on a daily basis. So they're not just showing the same image over and over and over. You know what I mean? Those of you who might understand what I'm talking about. They do 3 paintings, and then they show them over and over the same 3 paintings. And anyways, I'll talk about that some other time. But anyways, I learned that being in this environment of interior modeling, when something is off, when you're, let's say that you're I don't know, putting tile or whatever, or I learned something very interesting there, that you follow traffic flow. In other words, you don't, if the wall is running a certain way, you don't measure perfectly. You run with the wall. Those of you who understand what I'm talking about, help. Type in your comments below if you know what I'm talking about. You don't say, but I measured it correctly. How come it doesn't look right? It doesn't look right because you were not. It wasn't about measuring it correctly. It was about following the flow of the existing, whatever that was, whether it's the wall or a door or whatever. Anyways, I think I made any sense right there, but hopefully I did to 1 or 2 of you who know what I'm talking about. That is the same thing with painting. You don't necessarily paint the way it is exactly, because the flow of that might not translate correct on a painting. It might look nice when you look at it, but in a painting it might not. It might not translate correct, and that's a whole other thing. Photographers know that. Something, for example, something may look nice in a photograph. I don't know. Let's say that you took a photo of something, right? You're not a professional photographer. You took a photo of something, and when you took the photograph, you're like, oh, that's my niece, my nephew, or whatever. That looks beautiful. Looks lovely. But when and then you tell someone to paint it, and then it looks like what? Looks so strange. Even if the painter has some good idea of a bit of realism or whatever, the painting will come out. If the painter doesn't know what he or she is doing, the painting will come out looking extremely amateur. The reason why is because there's many things coming into play. There's placement. There is different stuff happening. It's not just point and shoot. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. Man, did I say a lot just to try to get there. But it's gotta be said. It's gotta be said. It's got to be said. Now see, this is what I mean by not overthinking it. Okay? This is exactly what I mean. You overthink something and you get stuck. Okay? And maybe overthinking it is your jam. I don't know. I don't want to deviate you from your jam. Maybe you're like a philosopher, poet, I don't know, scientist / artist. By all means, keep doing that. I don't know. Just saying I'm not, that's all. I do love me some philosophy, but not applying it to painting. See? The painting starts painting itself. It needs very little of your input. not to start doing that. Of course, it requires, you know, practice and whatnot. But that's why I love doing this session, so you guys can see. I'm trying to also at the same time kind of demystify the whole idea of you know, painting being a certain way only. You know, you can only do this, and if you don't do that, you know. One of the things that I did, and I some of you asked me like do you have something you can tell me, kind of like a what do they call it? Little advice for someone who's starting out. One of the things that I did that I would urge some of you to do, yes, I like what I was teaching. I urge you to do this. Do it if you want. Is to go see artists, go see museum artists. And the reason why I say museum artists, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't do this, you know, if you don't do this type of work. If you do, I don't know, what do you call that? Abstract art, street art, any type of art. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. Go see art from masters, museums, in the museums. Don't go to galleries, go see artists in the museums. You will know something. Success like that leaves clues. All success leaves clues. You will see something, you will start noticing that a lot of their work is very... You'll start seeing little things. For example, one of the little things that I started noticing in big artists' museums, or big artists in the museums, is that their work look like work. I know that, right? Hear me out. It didn't look like someone who sat there and stared at the damn thing and never. It looks worked. For example, one of the things that you may see in big artists is that you hardly ever see the pores of the canvas. This is it requires a lot of attention. When you go see artwork, pay attention to those subtle things. One of the reasons they did that is because they prepare their canvases really well. That's in some period of the time they did that. They put the ground of the canvas. They did a lot of ground. Others, it's because they painted in layers, right? Some painted in layers, and others painted like how I'm painting. And it doesn't look that way because they are so well practiced, these guys, like one of them being John Singer Sargent. You could see that the artwork is very minimal. And you wouldn't think that when you're, the strokes are very minimalist. But you wouldn't necessarily think that from him. Because when we think of him, we think of this extremely well, not hyper, but very well illustrator and all this realistic stuff. And of course he was a tremendous illustrator. His draftsman, great draftsmanship and all that. But he did something that he was very much like Picasso, in the sense that he understood that whole thing of a la prima. He understood in one take. And very few artists understand that, and I think many artists want to do things in many layers, and that's cool because it allows you time to go back and forth. But I've seen over and over in museums, over and over, that many of these artists knew how to work a la prima really well. A la prima meaning in one take. They didn't go back to it. And I've seen some artists nowadays who are very good at doing that. I don't want to say names because they can say their own name somewhere else. They're good. They're very good at that. And I think it requires a whole different type of skill. First of all, they're very ballsy to do that, because it requires you to be fearless, to start something and finish it in one. And second, you don't get that fear, you don't get like that just because, okay? It requires practice. But this is one of the things that I see with these artists. Over and over I see that, that they just, they nail it. I don't know why, they just do. I'm one of them. But anyways, look at that when you go see these artists, in the museums. Look at little stuff like that. They're very subtle stuff. It's not very, it's not gonna pop out, and just present itself. You're gonna have to put some time. I used to spend hours and hours when I was younger. I still like to go, not as much as I used to. I still like to go, but I used to spend a lot of time in museums. And that painting, a famous painting by Norman Rockwell, the young art student with a magnifying glass. Well, not so much like that with a magnifying glass, but man, that was me. That was definitely me. I know a lot of artists can relate to that. That was definitely me. Spent hours and hours. I would get as close as I could and sniff the thing. Just see what were they doing? What were these artists doing that they were able to achieve? And it led me to understand something. Some artists are very methodical to their work, and you can see that. You can see that how methodical they are when they are creating their work. But it also led me to understand that some artists are not as methodical. They're not so strategic. They've done it so much that they learn how to see, and they become, even if they're realists, they become a bit of minimalists. They become some sort of minimalist painters, even if they are realist painters, if I make any sense. Their work is very, very minimalistic, and it's hard to marry that, because one thinks that, one tends to think that, no, what are you talking about? These artists are very intelligent, and I don't know what word to use. They paint this way because of A, B, and C, and we put all this stuff on it. No, that they are very, they prepare so much, and I believe they prepare so much, but not the way we think. I think they prepared by painting so much. They paint a lot, and because they do that, they become very. They learn how to see. They learn how to see, and that's something I just want to share with you guys today. I love that about artists who do that. There's a certain mystery to that. It's a bit mysterious. It's not talked about so much. For example, one of my favorite artists. I have a lot of favorite artists, but one of them is Diego Velázquez, right? The Spanish Baroque painter. Diego Velázquez started painting very serious when he was younger, and his brushwork was very, almost a type of Caravaggio-esque brushwork, very almost Renaissance. Well, they were both Baroque, but almost Renaissance. What I mean by that is that it's very almost as if it's not done by oil, more in tempera, tempera type of painting. Very clean is what I mean. You know, you don't see brush work, much brush work, anyways. It's very, I call it ironed in Spanish, planchado. It's very, very well ironed. It's just work, you know. It's a different type of work. Of course, if you compare that to something from the, you know, from Van Gogh, they made Van Gogh ironed nothing. You know, everything was impasto. But this guys did it like that. You know, very interesting work. Anyways, later on in his years, I think I mentioned this to you guys some other time, but I'm gonna say it again. Later on in his years, you can tell that the man became very sophisticated in the way he used the brushwork. You know, he was just very sophisticated, very subtle for the untrained eye, but not for me, not for little old me who spent hours and hours and days just waiting for the next exhibit, for the next hour to come out so I can, you know, go and sketch in there. And not for me. Oh man, I spent so much time in museums. But I was able to see that. You know, after being in there so much, I was able to see, wait a minute. I was like, these guys are doing something else. You know, they start connecting. It starts making sense, and then you start realizing why these guys are so good. It's not that they're good, you guys. I'm gonna say it again. Some people are good because they were taught by another good artist, and blah 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 blah, and on and on and on, right? And then they're like a lineage of an artist trained this. I was trained by blah blah blah, and then I was trained by blah blah blah. No, but some artists are good because they are so. They learn how to see. Van Gogh was one of them. They learn how to see, and when an artist learns how to see, and other stuff starts happening. There's some other stuff that comes into play. And those are the things that you start catching. You're like, wait a minute, what is he doing over there? You know, or she, what you know, what's that? Why that? You could see it in Velázquez very well. Of course, the more recent ones, we started seeing it with people like Monet, you know, and the turn of the century, right? That they got sophisticated. Monet got very sophisticated in the way that he laid color. As opposed to when he was first starting, his lines were like, you know, he was following the school. He was following the method, right? Not even the school. He was also following his master, Baudin, right? His master. It sounds like Kung Fu. Master. But you know what I mean. He was following Baudin. But, it always is good when you're doing a painting. This is something that I like to do. Is you touch the background. Sort of as photographers do it. They autofocus the background. If you're a painter, it's something that, you know, it might be a little tip for you. You sort of just touch the background, and you give an illusion. It becomes an illusion of something is happening back there, you know, but you don't know because you just don't know, you're not there. So the mind, what the mind does is that the mind starts to put together the idea, and that's where the richness starts coming in. Remember, it's all in the I believe, anyways, it's just me. It's all in the secret of the mind, right? The mind starts wondering what's happening. The mind wants in. You know, it starts wondering what the hell's going on back there. Here to me. So the mind starts creating, adding to the story. Sort of like when you remember something as a child, and two kids were there, especially when you're a child. When you're older, it gets a little trickier, but still happens the same way. When you're a child, you remember something, you know, that might have happened. I don't know, something special or something not special, whatever. And the mind makes it different. The mind puts more drama in order to either conceal it or to make it more vivid, you know, tell the story differently. This is what our minds do. Our minds love we're passionate like that, all of us. You don't have to be an artist. Mind just does that. It's part of the mind, je ne sais quoi, you guys. I've been telling you this all the time. Okay. So something like that, okay? Anyways, going back to that, when you get a chance, do that. Go check it out. It's worth a Google, you guys. It's worth a museum visit. Go check out the artists. Big artists, okay? Don't go check out Joe Schmo from the corner. Big artists. Don't be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go check out, and then you go to like your local art gallery to go see someone who, you know, I don't know, who picked up painting 2 years ago, or you know, no. Go to the big. That's where you learn the most. Observation, I believe, it's an even bigger teacher than many of us want to learn from another person, and that's good. I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned than someone else already kind of, you know, paved the way, and I'm all for that. I'm actually going to start doing some awesome videos for you guys, more detail, more about mixing paint and whatnot. I want to share some of that stuff with you guys, but it's also very good to learn from the dead guys, the untold stories. Let's find out what these guys know so much, you know. Because you're looking at how they grew. That's the trick with them. You're looking at how, you know, success leaves clues. You're looking at how they did it. And that is priceless. It is priceless because nobody, even the best painters, can't teach you that because they haven't gone through their peaks and valleys. You know, they haven't gone through their growth, through their stretching. But a dead guy, man, a dead guy already did it. You know, one of those Rembrandts, one of those cats, they already went through it. They already went through it, you guys. You know what I mean? And they have something else to offer to you. They have the wisdom of the time. It's sort of like watching a time-lapse video, but not of some painting. You know how those artists like to do it? They're like, I'm going to do a time-lapse video. Oh, I'm one of those. I think I did one of those or two. Or three. No, it's like watching a time-lapse video of someone's true growth. Not of a painting. Not one of those, you know, crappy time-lapse video of a painting. Like, oh, let me start and finish a painting. You don't really get to see much there. You know, I mean, I guess you do, but no. No, not that. You want to go see a time-lapse video in your mind of someone's work, how it started, how it unfold. I make up words in this channel, you guys. If you guys want to learn some new words, I make up words all the time. You guys can come and check out the words I make up. Anyways, Velázquez is one of my favorites because you are able to see that in a very, very, very rich way. Van Gogh, even though he didn't paint for that many years, you're still able to catch that because his work evolved, you know, very quick because he painted. He was as crazy as me, or maybe I'm as crazy as him. No, not like that, okay. But he painted every day. He painted a lot. Very, very much the work ethic of Picasso too. So you get to see that kind of stuff. You know, you get to see the progression. Imagine if you're a musician and then you get to see, I don't know, Tchaikovsky or whoever your favorite musician is, and you get to see their process. I guess you do with I guess you do with musicians like that, but it's on my table, so my table's very dirty, you guys. So it's on my painter's table. Yeah, if you want to really see a nice growth, again, I'm gonna beat this horse. Go check out Velázquez. There's a reason why the Impressionists, and not just Impressionists, but especially the Impressionists, were very much in love by the works of this guy. You know, this guy is Velázquez, Delacroix. You know, go check out those works. It's because they were offering something else. They saw the they transmuted, to put it in philosophical ways, they transcended, they turned that bare metal into pure gold by going beyond. That's what Picasso, you either love him or hate him, because that's what he did. Many people don't love him because of that. Many people despise, Picasso because of it. Maybe most of us don't understand. The dance behind that, very, very intelligent individual. The different intelligence, the real intelligence, not that he was a genius mathematician or no. Yeah, it's a subtle. It comes without signs. It's a different. So it's a wisdom. It's not. And I'm not saying he was like a wise guy. I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the intelligence that was offered to him as he's painting. Because he was such an action taker that he was able to tap into the universal intelligence. It's the zone, right? The zone that I talk about. That is the universal intelligence. It doesn't belong to anyone. No one can claim it. It's everyone's. We can all dance from it. We can all dance with it. We can all share it. It is what it is. That intelligence is available to all of us. It's the true. That's why artists come and go, but that magic gets passed down from artist to artist because it's the same intelligence. If you tap or I'm tapping here into the zone. If I tap into the zone and you're able to feel it, I tapped into Van Gogh's intelligence. I tapped into Renoir's, into Monet's intelligence. If I do it, and you can sense it, you can feel it. You're feeling the same thing that people felt when they were. And I'm not talking about me. This is you too. It's not mine. Of course, we love the ones that practice the most because the ones that practice the most are able to express it better, express those characteristics better. Anyways, you guys, this is Jose Trujillo. I'm one hell of an artist. My God, check that out. World's greatest living artist, I'm telling you guys. You gotta share this. We gotta get enough people to understand that. We gotta get enough believers, Bieber believers. All All right, there we go. Look, this is how Master Trujillo signs. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to do my artwork in the presence of good people. You guys are fantastic. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And I will be painting more. Keep painting. Keep painting. Ask your questions. Put your stuff down here at the comments. And take care, okay? Bye-bye.